You don't hear the black ship coming. There's no rumble, no sound. Just an overwhelming feeling that something ancient and cruel is watching. Our village was small, not even marked on most maps. Just a few dozen families scraping out life on a forgotten agri-world. We had fields, beasts, and prayers to the Emperor. That was enough until the signs began. It started with the animals. Birds dropping from the sky mid-flight, goats screaming and then falling silent, eyes wide, mouths frozen open. Then the dreams came. Shared dreams. People would wake up sobbing, or laughing, or whispering things they shouldn't know. A child named Varen, only 7, stared into a cooking fire and started speaking in voices. Not voices. Deep ones, old ones, in tongues no one understood. His parents tried to hush him. They said it was stress, maybe heat stroke. But we knew. The elders began burning incense at every corner. The priest never stopped chanting. That's when the Inquisition arrived. They didn't walk through the gates. They were just there. Silent robed figures, standing in the middle of the village, square before dawn. We woke to the sound of nothing, utter silence. No wind, no bugs, just that suffocating quiet that pressed on your chest like guilt. They brought the black rods. Instruments of testing, they said. They held them out to each child, one by one, beginning with the youngest. If the rod remained still, the child was clean. If it shimmered, the child was marked. Varen was the first. It didn't shimmer. It exploded. His body convulsed and twisted. His eyes rolled back, and the sound came from his mouth that wasn't human. The Silent Sisters moved without hesitation. They didn't kill him. They erased him. Gone. No body. No blood. Just air where a child used to be. Parents screamed. Some tried to run. But you don't run from the Inquisition. You can't. Their presence stopped you. Like your limbs were tied down by fear itself. Then they came to me. I was 16. Strong. Normal, I thought. I helped till the fields. I memorized every prayer. I never even dreamed, not once. But when the rod touched my skin, it trembled. Just slightly. A flicker. That was enough. My mother stood between us. She said I wasn't cursed. She said I was just tired. The sister didn't speak. She didn't move. She just looked at her. And my mother froze. Completely. Not like she was afraid. Like she was gone. Standing, eyes open, but empty. I was screaming. I think. Or maybe I just imagined I was. My body hit the ground. My vision blurred. My skin felt like it was burning inside out. Someone was in my head. Not a voice. A presence. Cold. Massive. Uninterested in my suffering. You are seen. It whispered. Not as a threat. As a sentence. They took me. Not in chains. Not with force. I walked. Because I had to. My body didn't obey me anymore. Like the will to resist had been turned off. I saw my father, strong, proud, fall to his knees as I passed. He didn't beg. He just looked away, as if I were already dead. The black ship wasn't docked. It didn't land. It just hovered in the sky, massive, silent, devouring sunlight. Like a hole in the universe had opened up and was waiting to swallow the cursed. We marched toward it, not just from our village, from others, dozens, maybe hundreds of us. Children, teenagers, the unlucky, the touched. They say the inside of the black ship is colder than space. That's a lie. It's worse. It's alive. They don't tell you what's happening. No announcements. No warnings. Just quiet. You're herded down cold metal corridors by figures that never speak. Not once. They don't need to. The silence is their command. And every corridor smells like fear. Sweat, blood, and something else. Something like burnt copper and old nightmares. There were others. Dozens of us. Some trembling, some whispering prayers, and some completely blank, eyes vacant, as if their minds had checked out long before boarding the black ship. I looked for someone I knew. I didn't find anyone, but I did see the boy with the rod. He was maybe 10, face pale, eyes twitching. The rod hadn't exploded in his hands, but it had shimmered hard. He sat in the corner, hugging his knees, muttering numbers, over and over. Not words, just numbers. That's when the first selection began. One by one, names were called, but not by voice, by thought. A message would just appear in your mind, like someone pressing a word into your skull with a hot iron. Come. You didn't resist. You couldn't. Your body just obeyed. Those who stood up vanished through the left corridor. A door would close. We never saw them again. The rest of us waited. They selected 6 that first hour, then 3 more. All young, some crying. One boy tried to scream and run, and the walls themselves seemed to crush his voice. Blood leaked from his eyes, and he dropped, gone, dragged away like trash. I realized something then. This wasn't sorting. It was filtering. Not all Psykers were useful. Most were broken, dangerous, or too weak to survive. And the Imperium doesn't waste time on the weak. The test started the next day. A room, a chair, a question. No speaking, just pressure. They would think something into your mind. An image, a number, a memory, and you had to respond. Or your nose would start to bleed. Your vision would tear in half. Your brain threatening to burst. It wasn't a question you wanted to answer. It was one you were forced to. They asked me what color fear smelled like. I said rust. They let me go back. Others didn't. Some came back babbling. Others didn't come back at all. One girl, I remember her name, Hannah, came back changed. She stared through people, at shadows that weren't there. She whispered things about the ship, about it breathing, about how it watched us even in sleep. She didn't last 3 days. The Silent Sisters came for her. No warning, no judgment, just selection by silence. There's no goodbye on a black ship. Not because you don't want one, but because you no longer remember how. Time breaks down in that place. There are no clocks, no windows. You sleep when your body collapses, eat when they let you, and wait, always wait, for the next test, the next name, the next disappearance. The only thing that marks time is who's still alive. At first I counted. 52 of us when I boarded. All young. The oldest was maybe 20. Some were quiet. Others whispered prayers in dozens of dialects. By the end of the first week, I counted 37. By the second, 23. We didn't ask where the others went. We knew. And yet, somehow, the most painful part wasn't the death. It was forgetting. Faces blurred in my memory. People I had spoken to just hours before started to vanish from my mind. I try to remember their names, their voices gone, as if the ship itself erased them. Even my mother's voice faded. Her face, her smell, the way she called me my son in that quiet way. I clung to those memories with everything I had. I repeated them every day like prayers, but they still slipped, like sand through desperate fingers. The Silent Sisters never spoke, but their presence filled the halls like smoke. You could feel them before they arrived. A chill, a stillness, a pressure in your chest like drowning. One boy cracked under it. He started carving his name into the walls. Every day, over and over, Andrew was here. He told me if he didn't do it, he'd forget who he was. That the ship wanted us to stop being people. That once you forgot your name, it won. A week later, his carving stopped. I checked the wall. Nothing new. Then I checked the old marks. Gone. Smoothed out. The walls had healed, as if they'd eaten the memory of him whole. There was no rebellion, no crying riot, just silence. That was the worst part. By the time we reached the second sector of the ship, we didn't even talk anymore. Just sat, slept, waited, like lambs in a slaughterhouse who've already heard the first screams. They say when a black ship arrives on your planet, it feels like the sun holds its breath. Crops wilt. The sky dims even at midday. Children cry for no reason. The faithful pray harder. And the rest, they just hide. It never makes a sound. It doesn't need to. It's not a machine, it's a presence. A floating fortress carved from silence and fear, cloaked in blackstone, absorbing the warp's whispers like a bottomless grave. To the people on the ground, it's death incarnate. But for those of us already inside, it's home now. A nightmare we live in. We were a few dozen by the time the next intake arrived. The cell doors hissed open, and we saw them. New Psykers, dragged in chains, bound at the mouth, eyes swollen with terror. A young man screamed, not from pain, from the sound in his head. He said it was the planet we'd just passed, screaming as it died. That's when I realized the black ship didn't just collect us. It ate the world around us. It consumed memories, emotions, even entire fates. Once it touched you, even your home planet was no longer safe. Among the new arrivals was a girl named Delia. Her eyes were sharp, but her voice was cracked from screaming. She came from a mining moon where Psykers were publicly executed. The ship had come before they could hang her. She called it salvation. I wasn't so sure. She asked how long I'd been aboard. I tried to answer, but couldn't. Weeks, months, years. There were no clocks, no sunrise, just cold steel and the faint hum of warp drives in the distance. You'll get used to it, I told her. She laughed like I told a joke. That night, the air changed. You don't notice it at first, but it's real. Something shifts. The walls grow quieter, like they're listening. That's how you know the sisters are moving. The silent sisters don't walk, they glide. And they're always followed by something worse. The psychic drag. It's like gravity suddenly turns sideways. You feel pulled in a direction your body doesn't recognize. Your ears pop. Your thoughts start to overlap. You think about things you never experienced. Memories that aren't yours. Screams you've never heard, but suddenly remember vividly. That's the ship feeding. It feeds on psychic energy. It needs us, but only the strong, only the stable. Ilya didn't sleep that night. She muttered in her bed, eyes open. She said she could feel the ship watching her, not the sisters, not the Inquisition, the ship itself. Like it was alive, hungry, choosing. She said the Emperor had spoken to her. He said, I have purpose, she whispered, that I will be useful. I didn't say anything. Hope was dangerous here. The next morning, her bed was empty. No scream, no sound, no scent, just an outline where her body once pressed into the mattress. Gone, erased, as if she never existed. The sisters didn't need doors. They took what they wanted. When they wanted, the black ship doesn't explain. It doesn't warn. It only selects. We watched 5 more disappear that cycle. One by one. No pattern. No mercy. I remember one boy, maybe 12, who tried to pray out loud. Not even defiance, just desperation. His voice cracked mid-prayer, and he started bleeding from the nose, then the mouth, then the eyes. They didn't even take his body. The ship absorbed it. Gone. Nothing but a dark stain that steamed on the metal floor for hours. By then, we had stopped speaking. Most of us had. Language didn't matter anymore. Nothing mattered except stillness, obedience, survival. Sometimes I'd still dream. Not memories, something else. I'd see myself floating, screaming without sound, surrounded by burning angels and cities made of bone. A throne made of screaming Psykers, and a light so blinding it left my soul scorched. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, convinced I had already died, and this was hell. But the worst moment, the worst, was seeing another intake arrive. A new wave of Psykers. Fresh, terrified, just like we had been, and I saw myself in their eyes. That's when it hit me. I wasn't one of the victims anymore. I was one of the survivors, and that was far, far worse. You never see the whole ship. You think you do, at first. You think the cells, the dark corridors, the cold mess halls, that's it. But that's just the surface. The skin. The real black ship is beneath all that. And it's not just a prison. It's a machine. A machine built for one thing, to break Psykers. We were moved without warning. One moment, sleeping in our bunks, if you can call steel slabs bunks. The next, we were herded by invisible hands. You don't see the ones moving you. You just feel them. Pressure around your spine. Your knees bending whether you want to or not. You walk because something else is walking you. That's how we entered Sector 12. It was colder, somehow darker. The lights here were red, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. The walls, they weren't smooth anymore. They were scarred, claw marks, handprints melted into the steel. Some still had fingernails embedded in them, names scratched in madness. Blood long since dried, but still smelling fresh. This wasn't a place for waiting. This was where the real work began. There were rooms now, hundreds. Some large as chapels, others barely coffins. All of them designed to test, torment, or strip you. One chamber, all black, had a single chair suspended in the air. No floor, no walls, just void. You sit, and you hear nothing but your own mind screaming at you. I watched a boy come out of that room, shaking so violently his joints dislocated. He didn't make it another day. Another room forced you to relive your worst memory on loop. Again, and again, and again. I remember my turn. I sat in a chair. Nothing happened. Then I saw her, my mother, standing in the doorway the day they took me, reaching, mouth open, screaming but no sound. Then blood, from her eyes, her mouth, her chest, over and over. I tried to turn away, but there were no walls to face, no floor to fall on, just her. It felt like hours. It was 5 minutes. They were measuring how much of myself they could strip before I broke. Others weren't so lucky. Some went in and never came out. Some came out wrong. Their eyes glowed faintly. Their mouths hung open as if caught mid-scream. They didn't speak anymore. Just obeyed. Tools, not people. The worst room. It didn't have a name. You were led and blindfolded. You couldn't feel the floor. Couldn't hear anything. Not even your own breathing. And then a voice. Your own voice. But twisted. Saying things you never said. Confessing to crimes you never committed. Screaming, crying, laughing. Begging the Emperor for forgiveness. For sins that weren't yours. It cracked minds like glass. Afterward, one girl tore her own eyes out. Said they were showing her things that weren't supposed to be seen. That the walls were watching. The ship didn't just contain Psykers. It fed on them. Their pain, their fear, their power. We weren't passengers. We were fuel. And deep in the belly of that machine, you feel it. The hum. It's not mechanical. It's organic. Like a pulse. A heartbeat. Boom. Boom. The black ship is alive. Not just powered by Psykers, grown from their torment, guided by a will that doesn't need a name. And somewhere, in the deepest chamber, where none of us were allowed, lies a tank. A massive, dark containment unit. It holds the Psykers chosen for sacrifice, not to be trained, not to be sanctioned, but to be drained. Their souls, not just their powers, fed directly into the golden throne. Some whisper that the Emperor sees them. Others say he doesn't see anything anymore, that he's just a corpse feeding on corpses. I asked one boy why he kept smiling through it all. He said, because the alternative is to scream. And on this ship, no one ever hears the screams. That night, he didn't sleep. Just sat, eyes wide, whispering the same line again and again. I don't want to go to the tank. The next morning, he was gone. I never saw him again, but I heard him. The pipes groaned louder that day. The hum was stronger, and I swear through the steel, I heard his voice, still whispering, still afraid. There comes a point where you realize you're not alone in your suffering, but that's not a comfort. It's worse, because the ones who came before you, the ones who've been on the black ship the longest, they're not people anymore. Not really. We called them the others. You didn't see them in the first weeks. They stayed behind different doors, under deeper locks, in wings of the ship that pulsed differently. Some were kept in psychic containment units, entire rooms that screamed when you passed. Others wandered freely, like ghosts that the sisters no longer noticed. I met the first of them by accident. The ship shifted. It does that sometimes. Corridors rearrange. Gravity bends. You take one step and find yourself in a place that wasn't there yesterday. That's how I ended up outside Block Delta. I wasn't supposed to be there. The door was open. Inside I saw her. An old woman, thin as bone, eyes sunken deep, but awake, painfully awake. Her skin shimmered slightly, like it was always just barely phasing in and out of reality. She turned to look at me and smiled. Her teeth were perfect, unnervingly perfect. "You're new," she said, voice like velvet soaked in venom. "How long have you been screaming?" I don't scream," I said. "Oh," she whispered, "you will." She told me her name was Avara, said she had been on the black ship for 80 years, that the sisters kept her alive because she was useful. Not powerful, useful. She could see things. Not the future. No. The Imperium has Psykers for that. She saw what broke people, and she whispered it into their ears when the time was right. I ran. I didn't ask permission. I didn't wait. I just ran. The corridor behind me stretched as I moved. Walls breathed. Lights pulsed red. When I finally got back to my cell block, I collapsed. But Avara's voice stayed with me for days. Inside my head, "You will." After that, I began noticing them everywhere. One man tall, robed in pieces of inquisitorial armor, wandered the mess hall once a week. He didn't eat. He just stared at the food, then walked away. His eyes glowed with a light I couldn't describe. Not holy, not demonic, just ancient. They said he'd been a sanctioned Psyker who failed during a battle against a Tyranid high fleet. His mind had been pulled through the warp and sewn back in by force. What came back was loyal, but not entirely human anymore. Another was a boy, no older than 10, He didn't speak, didn't move, just sat, always in the same position, eyes forward, breathing perfectly in sync with the ship's pulse. They called him Echo. No one knew what he did, but when someone got too close to him, they started crying, not sobbing, weeping, uncontrollably, as if their soul remembered something their mind couldn't explain. Some say Echo remembers the Emperor's true voice. Others say he was born from the black ship itself. The sisters never touched him. Then there was the room with no door. We weren't supposed to know it existed, but we heard it. It screamed, constantly, a low, deep, tearing sound like metal being stretched through teeth. Some said it was a prisoner too dangerous to keep, too important to kill. A psyker who touched the warp so completely that his body had become a conduit for raw unreality. Others said it was not a psyker at all, that it was a piece of the warp itself, pulled aboard, contained, and kept alive for study. I don't know what's in there, but every time it screamed, I felt my own bones ache, my memories ripple, my thoughts blur. The others didn't speak often, but when they did, it was never about escape. There's no escape. Not from the black ship, not from the sisters, not from the fate that waits at the end of this journey. You don't run, you endure, or you vanish. One day, I asked Avara why they kept her alive. Why not just end it? She looked at me, calm, smiling. Because I've already died, she said. This is the part after. No one tells you how dangerous sleep is on the black ship. They warn you about the sisters, the tests, the silence, but not the dreams, not the first night. That's when the ship finds the cracks in your soul. The cells go dark, darker than dark. Light isn't just absent, it's forbidden. You can't see your own hands. You hear nothing but the low hum of the ship's pulse and your own breathing, fast, shallow, panicked. Then the walls begin to whisper. They don't speak in words. They remember you, your regrets, your lies, every act of shame you buried deep, the sound of your father's disappointment, the time you watched someone suffer and did nothing, the thoughts you thought no one heard. The ship remembers. My first night, I tried not to sleep. Everyone does. We fight it, walk in circles, bite our tongues, scratch our skin. Some people go days without rest, but eventually, your body gives out, and when it does, the nightmare begins. I was back in my village, except it wasn't right. The fields were too tall, the sky was too low. Everything was tinted red, like blood was smeared across the air. And my mother was there, but she had no eyes. She spoke, but with my voice. You were always weak, she said. That's why they chose you. I ran. The earth melted beneath me. Hands reached up from the ground, hundreds of them, each one mine. I saw my own face staring at me, screaming for help. I woke up covered in sweat and blood, nose bleeding, chest tight, but I was one of the lucky ones. Some didn't wake up. They were alive, breathing, but gone. Mine burned out, empty shells, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling, forever reliving the dream. The sisters called it psychic collapse, said their minds had peeled. That was the word they used. Peeled like fruit, layers torn away until only the horror remained. And that was just the first night. It got worse after that, because after you've dreamed once, the ship knows how to get in faster. A boy named Reland screamed in his sleep for 7 straight hours. No one stopped him. No one could. We tried plugging our ears, banging on the walls. Nothing worked. The scream echoed through the vents, rattling the air. Then silence. The next morning, he wasn't in his bed. but the scream never left. We still heard it, faintly, in the pipes, under the floor. Reeling had become part of the ship. I started sleeping in pieces, 10 minutes at a time, sitting upright, eyes half open. It didn't help. The dreams always found a way. They'd sneak in through memory, through sound, through feeling. One night, I dreamed of fire, but the fire wasn't burning me. It was coming from me. I was on a battlefield I'd never seen, surrounded by corpses. My hands were glowing. People screamed my name, not in praise, but in terror. They were afraid of me. I killed them all, with a single thought. I woke up with blood on my palms. Not mine. The girl in the next cell never stirred again. Was it real? Was it illusion? On the black ship, you stop asking. You stop wanting to know. Because once the line between dream and reality blurs, the ship wins. Some try to fight back. A man named Durrell, older, maybe 30, started tattooing prayers on his body. He said it helped. Said the Emperor guided his dreams, kept him sane. It worked. For a while. Until the night he dreamed of the Emperor with no face. He tore out both his eyes the next morning and laughed while doing it. I don't need to see him, he said, because he never saw me. The sisters took him, not for execution, for study. By the end of the second week, more than a third of our block was mentally gone, and the rest of us, we were just waiting our turn. The black ship doesn't need weapons to destroy Psykers. It has sleep. It has dreams. It has you. You think the tests are about power. You're wrong. They're about control. The Inquisition doesn't want strong Psykers. It wants Psykers who obey, who fear, who submit without question, even when the pain peels away everything that made you human. The first real test began with a name. Not mine. Not a voice I recognized. Just a name in my head. Corson. A word that didn't belong to anyone in the block. It buzzed like static behind my eyes. When I looked around, others heard it too. We all flinched at the same time. Then a light. A searing white light above one of the cells. That was Corson's. He didn't hesitate. That's how deep the fear had sunk. He stood, walked, obeyed. We never saw him again, but we heard him. 3 hours later, the walls screamed. Not with sound, with emotion. We felt his fear crawling under our skin. We felt his bones snap. His will crack. His voice praying to the Emperor, then to anything else that would listen. By the end of the day, it stopped. They brought someone else out the next morning. Her name was Tyra, younger than me. Small, quiet. She had barely spoken since her arrival. When the message hit, TYRA, report. She just sat still, didn't move. So they came for her. Not the sisters. The drones. Black, floating machines with no features. Just the faint hum of anti-gravity and the glowing red lens in the front. It scanned her, and she screamed. Not from pain, from what it showed her. I couldn't see it. None of us could, but she could, and that was enough. She walked, like a puppet. They took her to room 9. That was the first time we learned the room numbers meant nothing. Room 9 wasn't next to room 8, or even on the same level. It moved. The entire layout of the ship changed around it, like the ship wanted it somewhere new each time. Room 9 was for extraction, not of blood, of identity. They didn't just test you in there. They rewired you. Your memories, your will, your limits. If you had psychic abilities, they pushed them to the edge, forced you to use them, over and over, until you either gained control or lost everything. Some could set fire with a thought. Others could read minds. One boy melted steel with his breath. They were all dangerous, but also terrified of themselves. Because every time they used their powers, a little more of something else crept in. The warp is not passive. It watches, waits, smiles when you use it. One girl, Hessa, came back with eyes that bled whenever she spoke. She could levitate without trying, and her voice echoed twice. She begged for them to stop using her. She begged the sisters to kill her. They didn't. They praised her. That was the most terrifying part. The way they'd nod in approval. Say nothing. Just nod. It meant you were useful. Not safe. Not saved. Just useful. Others didn't make it back at all. We'd hear them for hours. Their powers erupting out of control. A storm of psychic screams echoing through the ship. Metal warping. Light shattering. Gravity flipping. Reality twitching. Then silence. And the next test would begin. I was called on the 6th day. The voice in my head came soft. You are ready. That's all it said. They led me through corridors I'd never seen before. The doors opened without sound. The air was thick, like breathing syrup. I was shaking, not from fear, from anticipation, like my body knew something was coming. The room was small. One chair, one observer, faceless, robed, silent. A screen lowered from above. They showed me my village, my mother, alive, speaking. I couldn't hear her, but I could see her mouth forming the word, son. Then the voice came again. Burn it. I screamed, refused. The observer said nothing. The pain started instantly, not in the body, in the mind, like my memories were set on fire. Every good moment, family, friends, joy, sizzling in real time. I could feel myself forgetting who I was. The voice returned, cold, unmoved. Burn it. I did. I don't remember how, but when it ended, the screen was black, and I was still alive. I'd passed, but I'd left something behind in that room. A part of me I never got back. The Silent Sisters don't walk. They arrive. You feel them first. A pressure in the air. Not heavy, empty. Like someone scooped the sound out of the room and left you in a vacuum. Your breath sounds wrong. Your heartbeat feels muffled. Even your thoughts seem smaller, like they're being smothered. Then you see them. Tall, armored in black and gold. Faces masked. No insignia. No names. Bald heads shining under the low ship lights. Eyes as cold as the void. They carry blades that hum, but not with energy, with absence. Weapons forged to cut not just flesh, but souls. We all feared them. Even the Inquisitors stepped aside when they passed. Even the drones drifted back. On the black ship, they were the only ones who could go anywhere, do anything. Not because of rank, because of what they are. They are blanks, psychic nulls. Where we radiated power, they radiated nothing. A dead zone in the warp. The closer they came, the weaker you felt, like a candle being snuffed out. Some Psykers couldn't stand it. They'd vomit. Some would pass out. Some would try to run, screaming, clawing at the walls. And the sisters would watch, then act. Their footsteps made no sound. But you always knew when they were coming. The temperature would drop. The air would still. And somewhere deep inside, the part of you that touches the warp, the part you didn't ask for but can't live without, would start to die. That was their gift. And their curse. The first time I saw them work, it was Tyra, the small, quiet girl who had been taken to room 9. She came back different, glowing faintly, breathing in whispers. At first, we thought she'd survived, that she'd won. Then she started twitching. Her eyes rolled back. Blood streamed from her nose. She began muttering words in a language none of us knew. The lights flickered. The walls cracked. Her voice became a chorus. I could feel the warp bending around her like a storm. She wasn't Tyra anymore. She was a beacon for something else. And then the sisters arrived. No warning, no sound, just the temperature plummeting, so hard my breath frosted. Tyra froze mid-levitation, her mouth still open, but no sound coming out. Her eyes bulged, veins blackening. One sister stepped forward. She raised a hand. Not a weapon, not a gesture, just a hand. And Tyra collapsed. Not fell, collapsed, like her body folded in on itself. She didn't scream. She couldn't. The warp inside her was snuffed out like a candle. Her glow dimmed. Her veins faded. She hit the floor like a rag doll. Dead? No. Worse. Empty. The sisters picked her up and walked away. Tyra's eyes were still open, but there was nothing behind them, like she'd been erased. Not killed, removed. We never saw her again. After that, no one spoke when the sisters passed. You didn't breathe. You didn't think. You just waited for them to leave. The black ship tests you, breaks you, shapes you. But the sisters, they decide who's allowed to survive. They're not torturers. They're not guards. They're the final filter. The scalpel the Imperium uses to cut the warp out of its servants before it infects them. If they point at you, you don't argue. You don't cry. You go. Because the sisters don't take prisoners. They take echoes. One day, Avara, the old woman I'd met in Block Delta, whispered something to me as the sisters passed. They aren't just killing Psykers, she said. They're feeding the ship. Feeding him. I asked her what she meant. She smiled. You'll see. That night, I dreamed of the sisters standing over me. Their masks gone. Faces blank. No eyes, no mouths. Just smooth flesh. They lifted me, and my shadow stayed behind. It screamed as they carried me away. I woke up gasping. My shadow looked normal, but felt lighter, like a piece of me had already been taken. There's no ceremony, no announcement, no ritual, just a message that appears in your mind like a nail being hammered into your thoughts. It is time. Judgment Day. The day every soul aboard the black ship dreads from the moment they're taken. The moment where your life, or what's left of it, is decided. Not by mercy, not by law, but by utility. Are you strong enough to serve the Imperium? Or are you just strong enough to die for it? It began at dawn, or whatever passed for dawn in a place with no sun. The lights pulsed white briefly. A tone echoed, sharp, clean, emotionless. The walls buzzed with anticipation. You could feel it in your bones, like static under your skin. They called us in groups, not by name, by presence. We'd all been tested, drained, stripped down to whatever core remained beneath our flesh. This was the final step, the weighing, to see who would be sanctioned and who would be sacrificed. My group had 12. We were marched into a cathedral-like chamber, vaulted ceilings, dozens of robed figures watching from above, their faces hidden behind gold masks. I could feel their minds brushing against mine, testing for fear, for control, for taint. One by one, we were pulled forward. There were no explanations, no judges, just the feeling of eyes that weren't eyes, watching from places that weren't there. The first was a boy named Luro. Quiet, meek. They said he had potential, low-level telepathy. He barely spoke, but his dreams had been stable. Useful for astropathic relays, maybe. He stepped onto the center platform. One of the masked figures raised a hand. A light struck him. His body convulsed. then stopped. Verdict, sacrifice. He didn't scream. He didn't resist. He just wept. Two sisters approached, touched his shoulders. He went limp between them, carried out like cargo. Next was Hessa, the girl with the bleeding eyes, the one who had survived room 9. She stepped forward, unflinching. They stared at her for longer. Then the same light. Her knees buckled, but she stood firm. Verdict, sanctioned. That word that sounded like salvation, but it wasn't. It was just permission to keep living, to serve, to be used. She didn't smile. She didn't even move. Just nodded. Once, and stepped aside. The rest followed, one by one. Some sanctioned, most not. The black ship doesn't care how hard you tried. It doesn't care what you survived. It only cares about what you are now. When my turn came, I could barely walk. Every step felt like dragging my soul through broken glass. I stood on the platform, felt the eyes of the Inquisitors on me, the sisters, the ship, the warp itself. I braced. The light came, and I felt everything. My fears, my sins, my anger, my power. They pulled it from me like blood through a needle. I felt them weighing it, measuring it, judging it, and I knew, in that moment, I was not in control. If they wanted to kill me, they would. If they wanted to sanctify me, they would. But I had no say. None of US did. I thought of my mother, my village, that final moment when they took me. The whisper, "You are seen." Now I wondered by who. When the light dimmed, I opened my eyes. The verdict had already been delivered, sanctioned. No joy, no relief, just cold. Just another day to live as a weapon. Of the 12 in my group, 3 were sanctioned, 9 were taken. They call it Judgment Day, but there's no justice here. Only function, only use. And those found lacking, they don't go to waste. They go to the throne. There's no honor in being chosen, no ceremony, no hymns, no martyr's march. When the black ship marks you for the Emperor, they don't call it a reward. They call it what it is, consumption. Those selected for sacrifice are not told where they're going. They're simply marked. A small brand burned into the back of the neck, shaped like an eye, always watching. They are not shackled. They are not guarded. They are escorted. Because once the mark is burned into your flesh, you can no longer run. The ship won't let you. Their minds are already gripped, tethered. The warp begins feeding on them even before they leave their cells. They move like sleepwalkers, dazed, numb, already half dead. I watched them walk past me. Faces I knew. Some I had spoken to. Others I had envied, because they seemed so calm through the chaos. Strong, resilient. And now, hollow. They didn't look scared. They looked resigned, as if some part of them understood what was coming and had already left. They were taken to the lower decks, the deepest part of the ship, where the gravity bends, the lights flicker constantly, and the walls don't echo, because even sound avoids that place. They say the black ship docks there with something else, something older, a temple, a reliquary, a tomb, or maybe just a pipe, a psychic conduit connecting the chosen directly to the golden throne. You see, the Emperor is not fed blood, not flesh. He is fed souls. Thousands of Psykers every day, across the galaxy, sacrificed to keep him tethered to the mortal world. Their minds shredded and funneled into the warp, not to empower him, but to anchor him, to keep him alive. Barely. The black ships are harvesters, but this part, the sacrifice, this is the reaping. There's no ritual, just silence, The sisters perform it with terrifying grace. A room with no floor. A suspended platform. The Psyker steps forward. One of them touches the brand, and the process begins. Their eyes roll back. Mouth opens. A scream forms, but no sound emerges. Instead, a stream of light, raw, brilliant, pulsing, pours from their chest. Their soul. It coils into the conduit. You can see it. You can feel it. Every time a soul is offered, the ship trembles. The lights dim. The walls seem to groan. And somewhere far above, in a throne of gold and agony, a corpse god feeds. Some say he's aware, that he feels every soul given to him. Others say he doesn't, that it's just machinery now. But it doesn't matter, because the result is the same. The Psyker dies. Not just the body, not just the mind, but the self. Wiped out, unmade. Their existence erased to feed a cause that cannot end, because if it does, the galaxy burns. I once asked Avara, the old psychic seer who wandered Delta Block, if she had ever seen what happens in the lower decks. She nodded slowly. They do not go to the Emperor, she said. They go to what's left of him. I asked her what she meant. She laughed. You'll see. She always said that. We still saw them walk, day after day. The marked, one by one, their steps slow, their eyes vacant, like cattle volunteering. But the worst part? They weren't forced. Not really. Some wanted it. They saw it as their purpose, their gift to the Imperium, a final, holy offering, to be used for the Emperor, to die for him, to be nothing in service to everything. Some cried, most didn't, and once they were gone, we were told nothing. No updates, no numbers, no recognition, only a growing silence in the cell blocks, the empty bunks, the eyes that no longer looked at each other. The black ship doesn't mourn. It doesn't mark the dead. It only hungers. And when the Emperor chooses, you don't say no. Before they take you to the lower decks, something changes. Not outside. Inside. It starts in the dreams, the last dreams. Those who've been marked, they begin to see things. Not memories. Not nightmares. Not even the warp. Something worse. They see him. Not as the corpse on the golden throne. Not as a god of light, but as something watching. An eye in the center of a burning sky. A figure made of gold, stretched thin by time. A voice that speaks without sound, pouring thoughts into their heads like molten iron. Some say it's a blessing. The Emperor, appearing to them in their final hours. But it never feels like salvation. It feels like judgment. The first was Ren, a mid-level telepath, sanctioned 3 days prior. He woke up screaming, clawed his own face until blood poured from his eyes. He kept yelling the same phrase. His face is moving. They restrained him, drugged him, silenced him, but the fear remained. We could see it, in his posture, in the way he kept looking at things that weren't there. He stopped eating, stopped sleeping, and then one day he was just gone, taken to the conduit. But the screaming, it never stopped. I saw another Marin, older, already broken by the tests. She used to hum a hymn of the ecclesiarchy under her breath, repeated, perfect, mechanical, until one morning she started humming something else. No one recognized it, not even the priest Psyker. She said it came to her in a dream, taught by a figure bathed in fire, whose voice was the sound of children crying. I asked her what she saw. She whispered, "He's not alone up there." And then she laughed. That laugh didn't stop for 4 days. Even as they dragged her to the lower decks, even as they burned the brand into her skin. Even when the door closed, some thought these were hallucinations, the mind unraveling before the soul is consumed. Others believed they were truths, revelations that the soul can see, only when death comes close enough to peel back reality. I started dreaming again, too, but it wasn't him I saw. It was me, older, thinner, dressed in robes that weren't mine, standing in a black cathedral, speaking words I didn't understand, watching Psykers kneel before me and disappear. Not killed, not taken, just erased. The dreams felt realer than waking. I stopped trusting my own thoughts. So did others. I met one girl who claimed she had already died, said she was just a reflection now, waiting to be called back to the mirror. Another whispered that she had seen the Emperor's throne, and that he wasn't sitting in it anymore, that it was empty, that something else had taken his place, that he had left. We didn't talk about that one. Some theories began to spread quietly, whispers in the black, that the black ship didn't just carry Psykers, it carried pieces of the Emperor's mind, echoes, shards, memories he couldn't hold anymore, and sometimes they leaked into us. We became vessels for thoughts that were too large, visions that didn't belong, screams from a mind that had burned under the weight of a galaxy. What is a god, after all, if not a man who can never sleep? And what happens to a man who hasn't rested in 10,000 years? He dreams through us. In the final days before sacrifice, Psykers would often go silent, eyes wide, mouths twitching, seeing things no one else could. Some smiled, most cried. One boy tore open his chest with his own fingers, not to escape, to let him out. I remember Avara, the old woman seer. She pulled me aside once, her eyes glassy. I saw him too, she whispered, but it wasn't him. Not really. It was something wearing him. What do you mean? I asked. She leaned in, close, and said, "The Emperor is a door." Then she collapsed. Blood leaked from her ears. She never woke up. I didn't dream after that. Not because I didn't want to, because I was afraid of what I'd see next. There's only so much pressure the human mind can take before it erupts. And on the black ship, that moment came quickly. It started with whispers, real ones this time. Not in the warp, not in dreams. From mouths. Psykers talking in corners, gathering in shadows, planning. They didn't want freedom. They just didn't want to die. A group from Block Theta made the first move. One was a kinetic, low-level telekinesis. Another could cloud memories. Together, they managed to disable 2 guards and crack a lower-level access hatch. They didn't get far. When the ship noticed, it didn't send the sisters. It sealed the air in their sector. 27 Psykers. Gone. No blood. No screams. Just vacuum. But the damage was done. The fear had changed shape. It was no longer just of the sisters, the tests, or the sacrifice. It was of each other. Psykers began turning. On the ship. On the staff. On themselves. One girl, she had been silent for weeks, suddenly unleashed a psychic pulse that fried 4 cells. Brains boiled. Lights shattered. Even the metal screamed. She was reduced to ash by a sister's stare alone. Another tried to possess a drone. Actually possess it. Drove her soul into its circuits. She succeeded for 30 seconds. Then her body exploded from the inside. The worst came when they coordinated. 6 powerful Psykers. Trained. Controlled. Desperate. They reached the navigation deck. Warp conduits ruptured. For a moment, reality bent. Time skipped. Corridors reversed. Voices came from the walls. Not mechanical, not psychic, primordial. As if the ship had been pierced, and something from the outside was looking in. The sisters moved. All of them. They didn't kill the mutineers. They silenced them. Psychically erased their presence from space and time. We forgot their names, their faces, their crimes. Only the whole remained. That's when we learned. The black ship could tolerate madness, but not rebellion, and it never needed to fight back. It simply made you forget you ever resisted. We thought we'd seen the worst. Then the warp storm hit. No warning. One moment, everything was routine, testing, silence, fear. The next, the air twisted. Literally. The walls folded. Time bent. The lights turned inside out. And the screaming, it wasn't from us. It came from the ship. The black ship screamed. Alarms meant nothing. The corridors reshaped themselves. Gravity lost direction. Some floated into the ceilings and never came down. Others vanished mid-step, like walking off a cliff no one could see. We weren't alone anymore. The warp had entered. Something had found us. I saw shadows moving in lights. Not shapes, intentions. A presence hunting through the decks. Doors opened to places that didn't exist yesterday. One boy stepped into a bathroom and came out in the void, floating, gasping, his eyes boiling in their sockets. The sisters moved fast. Too fast. They didn't contain it, they anticipated it. As if this had happened before. As if the black ship wasn't just built to survive the warp, but to lure it. The bridge was sealed. The lower decks shut. Hundreds of Psykers stuck between madness and monsters. And then came the voices. In our minds. Deep. Deceptive. Seductive. One whispered to me, "Let me in. I can free you. I can show you what he hides." I almost said yes. Some did. I watched a man open his mouth, and something else crawled out of it. It wasn't a demon. It wasn't a creature. It was a thought with claws. And it started hunting. We stopped being prisoners. We became prey. It lasted 9 hours. When the warp receded, 40% of the Psykers were gone. Not dead. Not missing. Just erased. The black ship sealed the wounded decks and never spoke of it again. And from that point on, none of us doubted the truth anymore. We were never meant to survive this journey. The warp storm had passed, but something stayed behind. We didn't know what it was at first. Just a weight, a pressure, like the ship was holding its breath. Then Psykers started disappearing again. Only this time, there was blood. It began in block gamma. A scream. A single, sharp sound, then silence. The sisters came. We expected order. Containment. A body. Instead, they came back with fear. They didn't speak, but we could feel it. Even they didn't know what was loose. The lights in gamma were sealed. Doors welded shut. Still more vanished. Always the same pattern. Cells torn open from the inside. Blood smeared across the ceilings. Bones bent backward. And no warp trace left behind. This wasn't psychic. This was something else. We called it the Hungry One. Not because it fed on bodies, but because it ate identity. I saw it once. Just once. A flicker in the corridor. Like a shadow stitched from screams. No shape. No eyes. Just emptiness wearing a face. It looked at me, I think, and I forgot my own name for 30 seconds. Gone. Just like that. Like I'd never existed. Others weren't so lucky. One Psyker, Bryn, tried to fight it. She conjured flame. Pure warp light. Straight from her veins. It laughed, and her flame turned inward. She burned from the inside out, screaming until only her skull remained. mouth wide open in a final howl. After that, no one fought it. The sisters retreated. Entire wings were shut down, and we realized, even they were powerless against it. The hungry one didn't just live in the ship. It had become part of it. It moved with the doors, traveled through the vents, spoke in voices that sounded like people we'd lost. It learned us, and it was waiting for something. What, we didn't know. But the black ship had been invaded, and now we were prisoners inside something worse than the warp. A predator with no face and endless time. By now, there were less than 100 of us. From the thousands that boarded across the sectors, only a handful remained. Some had died, some were sacrificed, some were erased, and some were chosen. The final division was called the Last Sanction. You didn't line up. You didn't prepare. You woke up and found a new mark burned into your arm. 3 symbols. Each one meant your fate. The first, a spiral. You were deemed unstable, too dangerous to live, too weak to control. These were taken without ceremony. Their screams were never heard again. The second, an eye with no pupil. You were useful. Your powers honed, tested brutal. These Psykers were shipped to Terra's Scholastius Icona to be trained, leashed, and deployed as sanctioned Psykers across the galaxy. Minds broken, bodies intact. And the third, a single flame. Rare, feared. Those marked with the flame were never seen again. Whispers said they were claimed by the Black Library, or sent to the Ordo Chronos, or gifted to forces that didn't operate under any known command. They were too powerful to die, too dangerous to serve, so they were hidden, stored, or worse, used in experiments no one was allowed to survive. I was marked with the eye, not a death sentence, not a reward, just a life of orders. I saw Avara, the old seer, marked with the flame. She smiled. Full circle, she said, then vanished into the shadow of a sister's cloak. They didn't escort her. They just turned off the lights, and when they came back on, she was gone. No sound, no goodbye, just the soft scent of ash and the warmth in the air. The black ship had chosen, and it was nearly done with us. I don't know my name anymore. They called me many things: candidate, asset, psyker, threat, survivor, but never human. Not once. It's quiet now. Not on the ship. Inside, the screaming stopped. Not because it's over, because there's nothing left in me to scream. I don't remember the sky, or birds, or my mother's voice. I try. I really try. But it's like chasing smoke through a locked door. Every memory I reach for just folds inward. What I remember is him, the first boy who vanished, the first sister who looked at me and didn't blink, the first dream where the Emperor's face cracked like glass, and the first time I wished I'd died in my cell. I should have, but here I am, still breathing, sanctioned, stamped, labeled. I'm told I'll serve the Astra Telepathica, that I'll send thoughts through space, navigate warp storms, relay commands, but not a single one of them has asked me if I want to, because they know. I don't. I'm already gone. What's left is just utility, a thing that works. I catch myself sometimes, reaching for feelings, regret, pride, even hate. But the black ship stripped those too. What it left me with is silence. And silence is dangerous, because in that silence, I remember the one truth we all learned too late. This isn't a service. It's a sentence. They tell you the Golden Throne is sacred, that it's the most holy relic in the galaxy, that it keeps the Imperium alive. They never tell you what it smells like oil, like burning bone, like the air itself has been cooked and strained through a dying scream. It's not a throne, it's a machine, a coffin welded to godhood. Wires like spinal cords stretch from it, miles in every direction. Tubes pump fluid that glows, not gold, not red, something else, something alive. And at the center, what's left of him? Not a man, not a god, just a husk, breathing because souls are burned to fuel the breath. They feed him 1,000 Psykers a day. That number is not exaggerated. It is measured, counted, calculated, each one selected, stripped, drained, then turned to ash. This isn't worship, it's maintenance. And the throne doesn't care if you're loyal. It only cares if you burn clean. We didn't see the chamber, of course. Only a few ever do. But some were sent there. Sanctioned Psykers, chosen for communion, for proximity. They say the moment you step near the throne's chamber, your soul shakes. You feel all of him, past, present, future. All his pain, all his rage, all his silence. And you realize, the Emperor is not sleeping. He is screaming, constantly, trapped, locked, bound to a machine designed not to heal him, but to use him. The Imperium isn't protecting the Emperor. The Imperium is running on him. And the Psykers? We're not chosen. We're not gifted. We're not even human anymore. We're fuel. And the throne will never stop burning. We were told the black ship was a passage, that if we endured, if we obeyed, we would be trained, sanctioned, redeemed, that we might suffer, but we would return. It was a lie. No one returns. Not really. Your body might leave. Your name might be listed. Your mind might survive. But you, the person who boarded, is gone. Erased. What comes out the other side is something new. Something manufactured. A tool. A whisper in the Emperor's network. A living transmitter. A psychic detonator waiting for the next war zone. You wear your robes. You speak your litanies. But every time you close your eyes, the black ship is still inside you. Its voice, its tests, the screaming metal, the face you saw in your dreams that wasn't the Emperor's, but still demanded your soul. Even the ones who made it off physically intact, they carry the ship in their bones. Some go mad a decade later. Some collapse mid-telepathic relay, overwhelmed by visions of corridors long behind them. Some, the unlucky ones, remember everything, and they never sleep again. There is no return. Not from the silence, not from the tests, not from the sister's stare. You can burn the robes, you can change your name, but the black ship never lets go. Because the black ship doesn't transport Psykers. It makes monsters. You want to know what it was like. You want the truth. Fine, I'll tell you. But know this, once you hear it, you can't unhear it. I survived the black ship. They call me sanctioned. A servant of the Emperor. A psychic weapon fit for deployment. But the truth is, I'm a shell. My thoughts aren't mine. My dreams don't end. My power is no longer something I use. It's something I contain. And every now and then, something whispers back. I speak in command halls now, deliver messages between worlds. I sit still, eyes glowing, voice shaking, as I channel the will of dead men across the void. People salute me, respect me. They don't know I wake up every night screaming. They don't know that the sisters still visit me. Not in person, in memories. They don't know the dreams haven't stopped, only gotten louder. I see the black ship in everything. The flicker of a hallway light, the metal groan of a bulkhead, the smell of ozone after a warp jump. It's always there, inside me, waiting. There are moments when I forget where I am, who I am. I feel the ship's breath again, I hear the scrape of a cell door opening. I brace myself for another test, but no one comes, because I already passed, and that's the curse. I was strong enough to survive, and now, I'm just strong enough to remember. So yes, I'm the voice that survived, but survival isn't triumph. It's a sentence, and one day soon, maybe in a battle, maybe in my sleep, my mind will finally slip, and I'll go back into the silence, back into the dark, back into the black ship.